Welcome back to the All Marshes Nature Reserve in Kent, and I'm joined now by Graham Madge of the Met Office and previously of the RSPB. So Graham, it's a very idyllic and peaceful day here in Kent today. It's hard to imagine some of the hazards that these birds face on their long journeys, including of course the weather. Earlier in the year there was some footage of some birds that appeared to be trapped right inside the eye of Hurricane Matthew. Is this a typical kind of hazard that the birds face on their migratory journeys?
The situation is that they're crossing the path, the exact track that many of the hurricanes take. So it's quite likely that birds do get caught up in these weather systems. And in fact, we know from birdwatchers' records in Northern Europe that many birds are brought to European shores on the back of these cyclones as they move up into the North Atlantic. So it's a very big threat that these birds face, and it's a very powerful hazard that these birds have to try and cope with in their lives.
So I've heard some people say that birds can actually forecast the weather. Is there any evidence or science behind this?
Well, there's this classic phrase, isn't there, that one swallow doesn't make a summer. I think the evidence for birds being able to forecast the weather is probably quite thin, but what we do know is that birds, of course, are affected by the weather. So we all know that we get weather coming from different directions, and that very often can bring birds associated with it. So we get birds from North America turning up in Europe, we can get birds from the tropical Atlantic, from all sorts of places. So although birds might not be able to forecast the weather, by seeing interesting and exotic birds, it gives you at least an insight into what the weather has been like elsewhere in the Northern Hemisphere.
Thank you so much, Graham, for joining us. Well, that's it from us here in Kent. It's back to Nick in Snowdonia.